We are taking a look at OHA's fourth quarter analytics, and we can see that things are starting to move in a little bit more of a positive direction. We do have our page views down just a tiny bit, but not enough to be of too much significance. But at the same time as that, we have users up by 5%, just enough to matter, and new users also up by a similar amount. Sessions up, again, similar amount, and the number of sessions per user ever so slightly up, but essentially the same. And we can see that we have a fairly similar number of new visitors to returning visitors here from this quarter versus last quarter. And so we're steady, slightly better though, and it's particularly good because we're looking at the holiday season, which normally sees us go down a bit. With the holiday season, then it tends to be that people are occupied with other things, and so they don't get around to looking at websites like this quite as much. So when we go down here, we're going to take a look at demographics to see the age and gender changes from last quarter to this quarter. And last time it was a little bit off, and so we were skewing probably a little bit too young. And we see that we're starting to correct that. We have the blue ones here are from the most recent quarter, and the orange ones are from the quarter before that. And so then we are going in a good direction of skewing a little bit older this time, and then with male to female, then we're essentially the same, which is fine. We're always going to skew a little bit more on the female side, and that's okay given the target demographics that we have here. And when we come down here, we also want to take a look at the location where people are coming to the site. And of course, they're coming from the United States the most. That's never going to be quite as high of a percentage as we want. There will always be some people from around the globe who do view the site, but it's still at a healthy point. It's actually a little bit higher percentage for the United States compared to the previous quarter. And then when we look at the number of people coming from Missouri versus other states, then we can see that it is slightly down as a percentage of our total views, but it's still at a very healthy point, and it's essentially the same number. With Kansas, that's increased a bit. Those who don't have it set to anything has increased substantially, so that might really be where we've lost some of our percentage from Missouri, and down just a bit in Illinois. When we look within our own state, then we can see that the general look of our map here is the same, and so we know we're targeting people roughly in the same way that we did previously. We do have Springfield down ever so slightly, and St. Louis up just a bit. Ozark is up a little bit more, and Kansas City is up a good amount. But in general, we're having people visit from the state of Missouri, which is what we're desiring, and you can see by far the most people are coming from the southwest corner of the state, which is the way that OHA is hoping to operate. When we look down here at behavior, we do want to take a look at new versus returning users, and we can see that then we are up on our new visitors a bit, which is good. We want to expose more and more people, and as far as numbers, it's essentially the same for returning visitors, so we're not in a bad place on that either. When we look at mobile devices, then we want to see if we're moving in a direction that is positive, perhaps, or negative, but mostly we just want to know so that we can know how to best operate the website. If there are changes that need to be made as people use mobile devices more or less, then we want to at some point consider making changes to the website to reflect that. So we have desktop users have gone up even more. They have already been trending upward for OHA. That's probably an okay thing, and at some point it gets to a point that's a little bit unusual, but we see that we have 56% of users coming from desktops, and that is far higher than what we see from anyone else, from any other websites that we're working on. But that's okay. It's a little different subject matter where you tend to be doing more in-depth viewing of the content on the site, and that tends to happen on a desktop device, and the audience skews older for this and should skew older for this than most websites that we're dealing with. The number of mobile users is down, the number of tablet users is down as well. So we're seeing that that trend is continuing. If it keeps on going, at some point we might want to consider more seriously, first of all, whether it is what we do desire, and if it's not, then to make changes. And I think that it's an okay thing. But then if that is all okay, and we do want that, then we need to consider whether we're best equipping people on the website to take advantage of it in a desktop format. I think we are. That's how the website was designed, was to primarily be targeting people on desktops, and then at the same time it does function well on mobile devices, so I think we're okay, but there might need to be a further discussion about that at some time in the future. When we look at acquisition, then we're looking to make sure that nothing is changing wildly. and we see that our organic searches are essentially the same in terms of a percentage and in terms of the number of users, and the same thing for social. We are down a bit on the other category here, but nothing too much that would create cause for concern. We are up on referral, and we can take a look here to see where that's coming from primarily. This is up enough that we want to make sure we pay a little bit of attention. It looks like these are coming from these Simplify ads, and they are up a pretty considerable percentage for these individual ones, and it's difficult to decipher from looking here exactly what those ads are doing, what they're trying to point people toward, but they are definitely getting more people to the website. And then let's take a look at this overview here again. We see that with social media that it's still down a bit more. I think we want to take a little bit closer look at that. Facebook is definitely down, but then when we look at the average session duration, then it is up a good amount. And if we take a look at what our overall numbers are, then we'll see that it was, I think, just over a minute before. Let's check just to make sure. I think we'd gone up from 57 seconds last time to a minute and 5 seconds this time for our average duration for the site as a whole. But then when you look at the Facebook numbers, then that number is vastly better at 3 minutes and 41 seconds. And so even though the people who are coming to the site are relatively limited from Facebook, those who do come to the site from Facebook spend a good deal of time there. They look at 2 to 3 pages per session, and so the people here are very valuable compared to those who are visiting the site on the whole. Now, it'd be great if we had numbers that were very high for Facebook, and then at the same time had them being that same value, but it's good to see that at least that those people who we are getting there are the right kind of people for the site, and that they are more likely to one day utilize your services in a great way. If we come on down here, we can take a look at what's happening with the pages on the site as a whole. And we have a good set of numbers here for this colorectal cancer educational event. I can't know, of course, how that resulted in real-life attendance for that, and I also don't even know precisely what it is that happened there at that event. But we see that we got a good number of people there, and that's good. Outside of that, everything else is looking very normal. Pages are about where we would expect them to be. There isn't anything too big that's a shift that really is worth taking notice of. We keep on having that the pieces of information that are most valuable are those things that are either very practical, so frequently asked questions and knowing more about the staff members and knowing whether they take insurance or not, whether you all take insurance or not, or otherwise then it is the more emotive aspects of the site, so things like our story and such. So things are going well there, and it is about the same as it's been. Considering the amount of time that the site has been around at this point, those numbers are going to generally stay pretty steady, except for when we enter in some new content, like we did with having the colorectal event. When we have those new pages, new pieces of content, that is very valuable, drives a new set of people to the site, and makes it much easier to be able to promote via social media and other means. I do want to take a quick look at events to see whether we are succeeding in getting people to take actions on the website. And so we see that submissions are up a good amount, and hopefully that's been reflected in high quality submissions. We don't have that information right in front of us, but it is the case that people are submitting things a bit more than they have been in the past, and then the number of calls are slightly up. That's never going to change a great deal, but it is good to see that it's moving in a good direction. So if you have any questions about any of this information or anything needs to be further clarified in any way, let us know and we'll try to help out, and hopefully we'll keep moving your website toward being in a place where it's successful and best suits your business goals. So you all have a great day, and we'll be back here next quarter.